look,
What?
I want to be positive about the Lions,
Yeah.
but I try to pay attention to what's trending, even though Twitter is not a real place. There's still vibes that you pick up, and the prevailing vibe today is, what the hell is wrong with the Raiders? And why do they have Jimmy Garoppolo when they had Derek Carr? And what's Josh McDaniels really doing to make this team any better? Is there any reason for hope for the Raiders at this point after what we saw last night?
That's the they're in a weird spot, like you said a few minutes ago, where the record's not that bad. They stay competitive in football games, right? I do think they, as you saw last night, their defense is well coached. They play hard. The offense got issues, whether it's Josh Jacobs just getting into shape now, the O-line kind of looking better. But, yeah, the Garoppolo thing, all that. But they do know how to manage games for the most part, right? So, yeah, they're in a spot to me of, like, they might win and steal a few games as the season goes on here. But you look at them in totality and go, yeah, there's no way. They're not a playoff football team. There's nothing like that. In fact, I'm not sure they're not towards the bottom of the league as far as overall total talent on their football team. But I do think their coaching hides some holes there. And then I want to go, well, where does it go from here? They look like a team, yeah, they need a top 3, top 4, top 5 pick. They need a quarterback. They need something as far as splash in that organization. Like we were talking here, I mean, their defense, like you said, respect, but there's not a lot of players out there that I think are blue chip type players, at least valued that way throughout the NFL. And on the offensive side of the ball, I think it's kind of fair to say that too. So, yeah, they're a little bit stuck in no man's land as far as I'm concerned with the Raiders, and I don't know where it's going to go as the future goes here with them.
There was an interview by Rich Eisen with Davante Adams that was recorded late last week. It was part of the Westwood One pregame show last night, and Adams was very, very positive and unequivocal about his desire to stay with the Raiders, to not be traded. He's been the subject of some trade speculation just because here's an elite receiver playing for a team that isn't going anywhere. The way his contract was structured, it's possible after this year they're going to move on anyway. And if you're a team thinking about trading a guy who's under contract for multiple more years, you can always wait until after the season and do it. Your compensation's going to be the same if you're looking at 2024 draft picks, whether you get them now or whether you get them in the offseason when you have more of a time to really shop him and maybe more teams to get to the table. But regardless, he said he didn't want to go. Last night, Chris, he looked like somebody who's ready to go. He was ready to go off. The video, the clip that is making the rounds widely on Twitter has him slamming down his helmet, people trying to read his lips. I'm not sure that the lip reading or leap reading, as the case may be, effort is accurate, but he's clearly not happy. And I think this was after he was wide open.
He was wide open and they missed him. Right.
And Jimmy Garoppolo missed him.
Right. I think that you're right there. That might have been, he was wide open. Jimmy Garoppolo missed him. And then also, I believe it was the fourth down play, a few plays later where the Detroit Lions bring out an all-out blitz. So here's the second down play. I mean, come on. Again, for all those who go, all Jimmy G does is win. Like, no. Let's just stop all that, okay?
Hey, I did.
All right.
I watched. I didn't hear any of that from Troy and Joe last night.
Thank you.
They didn't use that. All he does is win graphic last night. Maybe they're conducive to constructive criticism, and if so, you're welcome. Because that was a ridiculous take the last time we saw the Raiders, all due respect. All he does is win. All he does is take a team that's ready to win and not screw it up until it's really important. That's what he does.
Well,
right?
I would agree with that. Yes, he's good. He's good, but he was fortunate to be on a great team that made him look a little bit better and had a great coach who knew how to dial things up that fit him and fit him specifically and made him look better than what he was. So, yes, that kind of added to the lure of Jimmy G. But he misses that throw there, right? The fourth down, where I think Davante Adams gets frustrated even more, is not only was he missed there, but then they bring out an all-out blitz, and he's got a post down the middle, and it should have been, hey, I take a drop, and I just throw it deep down the middle to my best receiver and one of the best in football, and let him be one-on-one, and he catches it, or we get pass interference or whatever. So that's where he's at his wit's end. So yes, I understand that. I do think the Raiders are in they need to do something drastic. That's what I would say. They're kind of stuck in this, oh, yeah, we might get a top 10 pick or a top 12 pick. We get that. But is that going to be enough to flip over your team? The quarterback issue is real. You're right. They got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. Derek Carr. I don't think he was their cup of tea. And now they got Jimmy Garoppolo. And, of course, between injuries and their running game not working and Josh Jacobs not being healthy, he hasn't looked good because now he's having to do too much. And as you see, when you have to drop back or do too much with Jimmy Garoppolo, yeah, it's not that great. The interception he threw down in the red area after they got a short field turnover there, that was an embarrassing throw. I mean, it was a pop fly to the free safety, right? I can't remember how they got the ball here right there with that first one. Was that the Josh, was that one of the receivers fumbled? I can't remember what turnover it was, but to throw that pass into that coverage, right? I mean, look, that looked like Josh McDaniels said, are you kidding me? That's what it looked like he said. So, yeah, the Raiders are in a weird spot, and I do think they need to do something drastic to kind of flip around the talent on their football team.
Well, here's Josh McDaniels, second-year coach of the Raiders, talking after the game about whether he'll be looking to make changes offensively. Have a listen.
I know you're only 8 games in. You still got 9 left. But at this point in the season, when the offense hasn't taken on, do you have to look at everything? Do you stay the course?
Yeah, we should, Hondo. Honestly, we should. I mean, it's not productive enough, So, whether it doesn't matter. You pick a winner. You know what I mean? Honestly. We have to be able to produce more points in order to win games in this league. And right now we're not doing that. And so that's obviously my responsibility, and we'll take a look at everything we're doing, everybody that's doing it, and try to figure out if there's a better way, and that's what we can do, And again, you're right. There's still 9 games to go, so we have a lot of football left. We have played stretches of good football, but, certainly not consistently enough.
Maybe change that quarterback?
I'm not going to talk about that right now.
So the question at the end, would you make a change at quarterback? He says he's not going to talk about that right now, which is far different from get out of here. Of course not. So that's on the table. But the problem is, who do you change to?
Exactly.
Ryan Hoyer?
There you go.
Aiden O'Connell?
Right.
What do you do? Unless you are in soft tank mode and the idea is let's just go ahead and develop young players, see what they have,
right,
and hope we lose along the way. But you know what? If the goal at this point, frankly, is to keep losing, maybe you just ride the horse that you're on right now, because Jimmy Garoppolo is doing a hell of a job of soft tanking the Raiders into the dirt. Now, and part of it isn't all his fault. I see that he had pressure, extra pressure.
Yeah.
71% of the dropbacks last night. That's the highest rate by a defense since 2018. 6 sacks of Jimmy Garoppolo. So he was under siege all night. He took a low hit, Kimo von Oelhoffen style, to the knee. And I was amazed he kept going. It looked like he was in torn ACL territory, the way he got hit in the end zone in the second half. So, if you don't have protection, we saw that with Daniel Jones a few weeks ago, and we said, hey, get off Daniel Jones. He had no protection.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like Jimmy Garoppolo had a lot of time. So it's not all his fault, but it's a total and complete across-the-board failure of the Raiders' offense. They have all the money they invested in Josh Jacobs to get him back for 1 year, where they gave him extra money on top of the franchise tag. They've got Davante Adams. They specifically handpicked Jimmy Garoppolo when there were other options available. It's just not working for the Raiders' offense. And at some point, it goes back to the head coach. This is the tweet that I noticed this morning from Josh Dubow of the Associated Press. Here's what Josh McDaniels has accomplished in 25 games as the Raiders coach.
Right.
1, lost to an undrafted Division II rookie quarterback making his first start in the NFL. That was just last week. 2, lost to a high school coach in his first game. That was Jeff Saturday last year when Jim Irsay hired him with no NFL coaching experience. 3, blew a double-digit lead to a quarterback who had never practiced with the team. That's a reference to the Thursday night game last year against the Rams and Baker Mayfield when he showed up on a Tuesday. Blew the biggest lead in franchise history, 20 points. Blew 3 other double-digit leads. Got shut out in a game when his starting offense didn't cross midfield. Had the 4th game in franchise history with 80 or fewer yards rushing and passing. What's next? So at some point it's on him. But you know what? People ask all the time, When are they going to fire Josh McDaniels? When are they going to fire Josh McDaniels? Well, Mark Davis will do whatever the hell he pleases because Mark Davis is still making money, folks. That stadium is going to be full every game because if it's not Raiders fans, you know who's going to be there? Fans of the team that's come to town to play the Raiders because it's a destination team now. You don't need to have a great team. It's not that you want to be bad, but you're not going to put yourself in a position where you have to write a giant check to buy out Josh McDaniels when you really don't need to. I talk about this with officiating all the time. Why didn't the NFL spend more money on officiating? Well, it feels like it doesn't need to. What's the return on that money we're spending? Same thing with Mark Davis. Why do I need to write a big check to make Josh McDaniels go away? What am I getting from that? I'm not losing money if I keep him. They're still going to fill the stadium. They're still going to put us in prime time. We're still the Raiders. So it was just like with John Gruden, who wasn't getting it done in his second stint with the Raiders, and there was no way Davis was going to fire him. I feel like some of that same vibe, Chris, applies to McDaniels. And it's only year 2.
I hear you.
Right?
Yeah.
The Patriot way takes time.
It does. That's the one thing I will say. Yeah, they're trying to build a completely different team than what John Gruden had and what he passed off to Rich Bisaccia. Right? And then they went to the playoffs. That's the first problem, is the optics look bad, okay? Where they went to the playoffs and Josh McDaniels takes over, and, of course, they haven't gone to the playoffs 2 years in a row, right? Some of the things you talked about in that tweet and all that, those are also Derek Carr related. We can go back to some of those games, and I'd go, well, if you go back and watch, it'd be hard when your quarterback plays like that, right? That's why he's not there anymore. So they made an aggressive move there to get rid of him. Like you've heard me say, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, I think in their heart of hearts, they thought they were going to get a quarterback in the top 10 this year. And then, must have not liked Will Levis. Okay, and that's fine. I think there was a lot of people that questioned that, so they weren't like crazy there. I know it looks a little weird after he just threw 4 touchdowns yesterday or 2 days ago, but they kind of got left out of that conversation. So in my heart of hearts, I think they got Jimmy Garoppolo, and they also thought they were going to get a top-end quarterback and be able to develop and go, hey, look, the future's bright. Yep. We got something here. It didn't work out that way. And then you got the Jimmy Garoppolo. Also, let's throw on the, oh, wait, I lied to you guys, and I actually do need foot surgery, and it's worse than you think, right? So they gave them that money. He doesn't practice. You don't have the running back all training camp. He was the best player on your team last year, right? Now the quarterback issue falls into, okay, now the Davante Adams issue, right? So they're really in a tough spot. That's where I kind of say they need to do something drastic here to kind of give the team hope instead of just like, hey, we're going to win a game every now and then and be competitive and do all that. I don't know if that's really, the route to go right here. I don't. And when I say something drastic, I mean drastic. Yeah. I mean, if I were them, I would listen to offers about Davante Adams. Where are we going? You're not winning the Super Bowl this year. You're not winning the Super Bowl next year. You're not. There's too many pieces on that roster that still need to be filled in. So that's where I get into it, and that's where, yeah, McDaniels and company are in a very tough spot, and they got the pressure on them right now because of, a lot of the things I just said.
I did have a moment of panic last night. I shared it with you via text.
Yeah.
The Raiders initially had placed Jimmy Garoppolo on
right.
their Twitter version of their inactive list, and he was completely healthy, and my first thought was, oh, no, they're trading him to the Vikings. Oh, no. Oh, no. Fortunately, it was just the Raiders screwed up, and they had copied a portion of last week's inactive list. Jimmy Garoppolo was active, as we saw last night, so he could still, in theory, be traded today, but if I'm the Vikings, and we're going to talk about what they're thinking about doing later, that's not an option for me. I don't want Jimmy Garoppolo running the offense in Minnesota.
Well, yeah.
And who knows whether they want him running the offense going forward in Las Vegas. But again, I have to balance that against the fact that he was under duress a lot of the night.
He was under the duress. Well, can we go back to that package too, as far as him being under duress? The other thing that makes Jimmy Garoppolo, to me, it's like way different than the Daniel Jones Seattle Seahawks one. That one, like, you didn't really know he was under that much duress until you looked at the stats and you went, whoa, he was under duress, right? You didn't need to look at that in the Daniel Jones Seattle Seahawks game. You knew it was like, oh my gosh. And the other thing that makes it like here, I know that wasn't great pass protection, but there was almost 3 seconds there to throw. It wasn't the worst. Right? There's an absolute, whether that's the quarterback or the center, not identifying a blitz, that's an issue. But the other thing, and even there, I know that's not great, but it's not the worst. I don't think it's comparable to Daniel Jones and the Seahawks. The thing that makes it look even worse, Mike, and you brought this up before, is for 2023, he is the least mobile quarterback in football. That's the other thing that's tough. He can't make a play outside the pocket. He can't even get out of the pocket. That is hard in today's NFL. As we talk about all the time, there is freaks everywhere on the defense right now. Every team has studs on the edge. They got linebackers that can fly around. If you can't move a little bit as a quarterback right now, I mean, you might as well just say forget it. You got to have a great team around you or something else great that protects you, like playing for the 49ers with the best run game in football. Right? So that's where it gets compounded too. He gets no off-schedule plays. He makes nothing happen above and beyond the playbook and barely executes. I would say he doesn't execute what is there to have in the playbook. Right? I mean, we saw plays last night where you go, what the hell is that? What kind of throw is that? What is he looking at? So that's I understand you not wanting Jimmy Garoppolo, and it's a tough spot. And as it looks right now, he's going to be relegated to being a backup quarterback next year.
Yeah, I mean, at least Kirk Cousins, who is a far cry from Patrick Mahomes, we saw last Monday night processing. Even though he doesn't have that
people
mobility.
Are about to hit him.
Processing. Get rid of the ball.
Exactly.
Move a little bit.
Exactly.
Shuffle a little bit.
Right.
Slide a little bit.
Boom.
Do something.
Oh, I got it out. Yes.
Yeah, not just turtle and accept it because you know there's nothing you can do.
I'll just pat the ball, and yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So that's where I keep going back to. You got the Chandler Jones distraction that happened, right? It'd be great if that wasn't an issue, and maybe they could use him as trade bait right now and get something for him. So they've had some things that are outside of their control, some inside of their control, and the optics of the situation make it look real tough. And that's where I feel like they're in no man's land right now. And that's where I keep coming back to the word drastic, is they need to change something in a big way to make a splash and turn over their football team a little bit.
They had one really good drive where they leaned on Josh Jacobs, as they should, given what they're paying him.
Right.
But that wasn't something that continued. He was asked after the game what they should do on offense. He said, I don't know. It's not my job, which is accurate and literal. And what is he supposed to say?
Yeah.
He's not the one drawing up the plays. He's not the one calling the plays. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.